Good morning. How is everyone? I know some people were out a little late last night, so I hope that you're all ready for this because we are going to be bringing the fire. Ladies and gentlemen of the National Conservatism Conference, it is less than 4 months to the presidential election. Less than 4 months until we decide whether we will be governed by a living, breathing, real American or a corpse puppeteered by the deep state. Less than 4 months until we have the opportunity to seize the arc of history and bend it, yes, towards justice, not social justice or woke justice, but real justice for the people who stole the American democracy. Less than 4 months standing on the doorstep of destiny before we storm its gates. And as we stand here today, we are on the precipice of founding a new West. And I will lay out my vision for that in a moment. But I want everyone in this room and within the sound of my voice to consider the stakes. Steve Bannon, President Trump's former chief strategist, is now a political prisoner. Peter Navarro, President Trump's former economic advisor, is now a political prisoner. Numerous J6ers are political prisoners. And the regime is now trying to make President Trump himself a political prisoner. With stakes such as these, we cannot falter. We cannot hesitate. We must act. This is a no-fail mission. We have no choice. We have no option but victory. And may the sword of St. Michael defend us. I don't know about you, but I will come home with my shield or on it. We are not the Christians who will be fed to the lions. We are the Christians who put on the full armor of God to march into battle against Satan and all his works. Now, before I begin, I'd like to address the people across town just now. The globalist world order is having their summit in honor of NATO. That's an interesting word, globalist summit, as if to imply that they are at their highest point. And you know what? They are. Because as sure as I am standing here today, President Donald J. Trump is waiting in the wings, and when he assumes office again, let me tell you, the globalists and their entire regime will be smashed to pieces and scattered to the winds. We will be courageous in the defense of our nation, our families, and our people, and we will not back down from this animating test of liberty. And as President Trump stated 8 years ago in his world-famous speech, did you know it was just 1 block away from where we are gathered right now? And we shall reiterate, we will no longer surrender this country and its people to the false song of globalism. The nation-state remains the true foundation of happiness and harmony. It is fitting that we gather, thank you. So we're gathering just a week after the 4th of July. And a new Independence Day is at hand, a second Independence Day, not just for America, but for all of Western civilization. A new West will declare independence from the globalist regime emanating from the would-be world capitals of Brussels, Davos, and Geneva, because for too long, the voices of the common man and woman have been drowned out by a chorus of elites, disconnected from the realities faced by everyday citizens. We envision a society where sovereignty, self-determination, and local government are not just ideals, but practiced truths. By reclaiming our economic and political autonomy, we will aim to build a prosperous, safe, and strong future together with our families. We are going to unite in this endeavor, confident in our ability to create a world where we are free from the wasting disease of neoliberalism. Together, we will forge a new West, free from the shackles of globalist agendas and dedicated to the well-being, safety, and liberty of all our citizens. Bukele in El Salvador has shown us that we may be free of violent crime. Milei in Argentina has shown us how we may be free of permanent bureaucracies. And Viktor Orban has shown us that it is possible for nation-states to once again chart their own course through history. We owe all of this to the strength and courage of Donald Trump and his movement that showed us that there is a way forward and a true path for the populist nationalists of the future, representing the interests of the common people for all races, colors, and creeds. Now, you may have heard the phrase that the president is the leader of the free world, and so he is. Would you like proof of that? Well, just take a look down the road here at our current president, who is rotting palpably before our eyes. And because as a fish rots from the head, surely the free world is rotting as President Biden is. We don't have to accept that. We can save Western civilization this year. We can and we must. Now, if you doubt that, look at the results from the past few elections in France and the UK the last couple weeks. But Jack, the midwits might say, the right lost those elections. Oh, did we? Because that's not what I see. What I see is a globalist establishment getting desperate. Look at the UK. Labour won with a vote share only a couple percentage points higher than when they got crushed under Jeremy Corbyn. They only got 1/3 of the vote. They only won 2/3 of the seats for a simple reason, because the people who showed up for the Conservatives last time showed up for Nigel Farage instead. Why? Because Nigel Farage means it when he promises them a country without illegal immigration, woke education, and transgenderism shoved down their throats. The Conservative Party, on the other hand, campaigned against all that and then gave it to them anyway. Because the conservative Tories, like the pre-Trump Republican Party, are nothing more than a sclerotic faction of woke capitalists who pretend to care about actual conservatism whenever they need to win, but of course, whenever they govern, they forget it. The people caught wise, so they removed them from support. Nigel Farage will now speak for 50% of the British public, and the entire British establishment will realize that before long when Keir Starmer is forced to face him in the House of Commons. And just like with Joe Biden, it may take several years of leftist hell before the British people finally get a conservative governing majority that actually represents them and is determined to win and deserves to win. This is what we are seeing. This is the rise of a populist nationalist supermajority. And as for France, well, when I look at them, do you know what I see? I see 2022. Let me explain. This is a coalition of leftists and neoliberals desperately gluing themselves together to try to keep the actual emissaries of the people out of power. A coalition, by the way, that will assuredly tear itself apart with infighting before 2027, when the real French election, the French presidential election, actually happens. We understand that for the French people to understand, to realize that their ruling class, just like the ruling class everywhere, will cut a deal with the devil to hold on to power. Emmanuel Macron is willing to throw the country into chaos rather than stand aside for the way of the future. They call us the agents of chaos, but they are the agents of chaos. They have existed in every Western country, and we are talking about the ruling class. Again, why do they do this? Because they are terrified of the populist nationalist supermajority. And that brings me at last to the leering carcass atop the Democrat ticket, Joseph Robinette Biden. Now that we know that Joe Biden can't speak, he can't act, he apparently doesn't actually mentally exist, I have some questions. Since the House GOP has not been able to quite figure this out yet, let me address the Weaponization Committee and Speaker Johnson directly. You need to get to work. You need to get to work right now. We are in the midst of a national security crisis, and we do not even know who the president is. They said that Biden's only available from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. So who is president from 4 p.m. till 10 a.m. in the morning? Is it Hunter Biden and his foreign oligarch of the week? Or is it Dr. Jill Biden, our commanderess-in-chief, who demanded the first anthem of a first lady? This is not a government. Let me lay out what actions the House should take next. Subpoena the cabinet members and their staff. Bring them to the House immediately. Demand their presence. And if they refuse, send the House Sergeant-at-Arms to lock them up right next to Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro. Here is what we must know. Who knew that Biden didn't mentally exist? Who covered it up? How long has he been like this? Most importantly, who's been giving the decisions? Who gave the order for the Afghanistan withdrawal the way it was? Who authorized Ukraine to bomb Russia with US missiles? Who authorized the administrative state to infect our universities with DEI? Who allowed another war to break out between Israel and Hamas? Who gutted Title IX and turned it from an act which protects women into an act protecting men cosplaying as women? And who in God's name decided that Harry Sisson should be a spokesman for the administration? Okay, that was a little joke. I kind of love Harry Sister. He's my favorite follower on Twitter, by the way. The American public has seen completely for the first time that Joe Biden can't keep his programming straight. They just found out that the entire media and their party has been lying to them. And this is why, at long last, we finally have a generational chance to evict them from power and save Western civilization. And it is only a chance. There are still months before the election. We have much work to do to match the corrupt Democrat electioneering regime. We may be able to see our way home, but there are miles to go before we go to sleep. Now, I want to say something here very directly to Speaker Johnson and the House GOP. The SAVE Act must be passed to prevent illegal immigrants from having any role in federal elections. These measures must be taken with the utmost importance, and federal funding, which currently runs to September 30th of this year, must be upheld if that act is not passed. Speaker Johnson, this is your moment. The strongest power the House GOP wields is the power of the purse. Speaker Johnson, hold up all federal spending to block illegal immigrants from being able to influence or interfere in our elections in any way. No matter what the Biden White House or the media or the establishment squishes say, whatever names they call you, stop them, Speaker Johnson, and you will go down in history as a hero. This is the time to stand and deliver. And delivery is on order. Meet the moment. September 30th is our last chance. The hour is appointed to wield power before the election, and it's time to act now. Now, I want to be very clear. This election is in no means by the bag. I've seen the headlines, but no. Trump's polls, sure, they look strong right now, but polls are not ballots. And I will not be resting until about, 3 a.m. on election night. Every person in this room has to get ready for that moment as well. You must adopt the 3 a.m. mindset. In the 3 a.m. mindset, we prepare now for that moment. In the 3 a.m. mindset, we are working backwards from 3 a.m. on election night. So what will you do between now and then? That's all that matters. Are you getting involved? Are you registering voters in swing states? Are you banking and chasing elections with Turning Point Action and Scott Pressler? You may not have the ability to start a social media platform. Maybe some people in this room might. Like Elon Musk or Donald Trump, but you know what? You've got a backyard. You've got a barbecue. You've got a group chat. You've got friends and family in those states. And let me tell you something. If Steve Bannon can walk into the gulag courageously as a symbol to us all, then you can have the courage to send a text to your contacts lists about voting in 2024. We don't have time for games. And by the way, this is the National Conservatism Conference. We have to talk policy a little bit here. Let's say for sake of argument, we win in November. So even then, if we win the election, we still have a chance to save Western civilization, but it is no sure thing. We have to not only campaign effectively, but govern effectively. And if we are going to chase the communists back into their urine-soaked faculty lounges, we must learn the lessons of past anti-communist revolutions. Foremost among them, and I've heard a lot of people say it here this week, the law of absolute reciprocity. Do unto others as they do unto you. That which is done to our side must be visited upon theirs. For too long, conservatives have only cared about principles, but not about power. If you have power but no principles, you are a tyrant. When you have principles but no power, you are delusional. I am not talking about power arbitrarily. I'm talking about due justice. I am talking about exact reciprocity. And we've seen this from time again. During the Cold War, we understood atomic diplomacy. Might be seeing a little bit of that atomic diplomacy right now with these Russian nuclear subs off the coast of Miami. Because this is what happens when all negotiations break down. But let me tell you something. Negotiations with a left such as this is not an option because we don't negotiate with terrorists. If they are going to hold J6 investigations to target patriots, then we will hold investigations to identify the neo-cultural Marxists in seats of power all across Washington. I seem to remember a senator from Wisconsin telling us that communists were infiltrating our government. And you know what? He was exactly right. We don't negotiate with globalist neo-Marxists. We don't negotiate with the political version of an autoimmune disease. In word, ladies and gentlemen, and taken from the title of my new book, we don't negotiate with unhumans. And because that's the stakes of this battle. Humanity versus unhumanity. Populist nationalists versus atheist Marxist globalists. Strength, beauty, and genius versus weakness, ugliness, and stupidity. Civilization versus barbarism. Crime and chaos versus law and order. Now I know that some of our libertarian friends might be itching to shout, well, what about freedom? What about our right? No, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the National Conservatism Conference. And as national conservatives, we understand that law and order is not the enemy of freedom. Law and order is the only thing that makes freedom possible. We come to restore order, not to knock it down. And we do that because we understand that when civilization ends, the result would not be some anarcho-capitalist Ayn Randian utopia where the residents of Galt's Gulch emerge and lead us all into a perfect society of the self. No. Government collapse would produce a despotism because it always does, where the Hank Reardons and the Dagny Taggarts and the John Galts of the world will end up as anonymous bones at the bottom of freshly dug mass graves once the shock troops of the regime unhumans find them. In other words, every ideology which counsels us to eliminate our power in order to create some fake barrier against the left, seizing it back when they inevitably use our abdication to do so, we have no use for them. We have no need of these barriers, and we will not be swayed by those who sleep under the shield of safety that we provide and then complain of its existence. To restore freedom, we must restore order, and we will. Because, ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you for something about France. Think about this. Do you think the people in France actually voted for the communists and this crazy National Popular Front that's gotten into power? No. They didn't vote for that. They voted against the right. What they voted for is nothing, which is exactly what today's globalists, whether of the neoliberal or Marxist variety, stand for. Nothing. Liberalism itself is Joe Biden. A senile, selfish remnant of a failed world order, which destroyed Western economies on hordes of invaders, sacrificed Western thought to its most freakish malcontents, and which tries to supplement Aristotle with anti-racist baby. And just like Joe Biden, neoliberalism has no juice left in the tank. Like Biden, it is dying. Its only heirs are crackheads and degenerates, and at the last judgment, its name is not Legion, but loser. Let me tell you what we're for. I see on the horizon the dawn of a new chapter as we embark on a refounding of what I'd like to call the New West, a vision not of a sprawling global empire, but of a collection of nation states working in concert, drawn together by shared culture and common values, Greek philosophy, Roman law, and the values of the Holy Bible. This is what we mean when we say Western civilization, not globalism. The New West will chart a course that respects the sovereignty of each nation while understanding and preserving our unique characteristics. The New West will not seek to impose its will or act as the world's police. Instead, we will focus on nurturing strong relationships around the world and around hemispheres. Our commitment to this vision must be steadfast. We believe that each nation state within the New West has a unique cultural heritage that must be preserved and celebrated. We recognize that the strength of our collective identity lies in the richness of our individual cultures. To that end, we will implement policies that respect and uphold our national character, and this includes regulating migration in a way that preserves our cultural identities and our social fabric. By managing migration thoughtfully, we can welcome some, maybe net zero, who seek to contribute our societies while safeguarding the essence of that which makes our nations unique. And we will work together. This is our national destiny. We will continue the civilizational project that was bequeathed to us by our forefathers. This is our duty. This is our responsibility. Together, we will build a future where our collective strength from our nation states, many of which are gathered here today, leads us to unprecedented heights, to the stars and beyond them, as is our birthright. We are the ones who will win. And in 4 months, with our tenacity and grit, we will prevail. With God as our witness. Thank you, and God save the Republic. trying to keep it light for the morning, you know? Keep it really light for the morning speech.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome